Hey, Allison Meredith here with my perspective on what happened June 4th through 7th here in the year of 2024. For those of you who don't know, I had a tennis ball sized brain tumor in my brain. And the only symptom was some jaw pain. So I want to tell you what I had originally planned on June 4th, how it turned out differently, and how the next 3 days turned out. Just as it's a frequent question I get. How did we even get here? How did this start? So that's what I'm aiming to answer. So Tuesday morning, June 4th, I woke up with a fun me day planned. I was going to have an MRI appointment at 8:30, and more about that in a moment. And then I had a lunch date with my beautiful daughter, Sylvia, who works at Eastman. I was going to drive to Kingsport. I thought, surely, even though doctor's offices always run late, with an 8:30 appointment, I'm going to be able to get to Kingsport for lunch. And then I had a fun meeting with a couple of friends that afternoon. It was a me day because my youngest was at Camp Bays Mountain for the week, which, by the way, I highly recommend if you want just a fun week for your kids in the summer. Camp Bays Mountain, which is different than Bays Mountain Park and Planetarium, which is also awesome. That's owned by the city of Kingsport. Camp Bays Mountain is owned by the United Methodist Church, and they are near the two are near each other, of course, but they just do an excellent job with a week of summer camps. So my next youngest is 15 years old. He can kind of manage himself. And all my older, I have 7 kids total, but the older 5, they have full-time summer jobs or full-time jobs because they're, adults. So it was just a fun me day. Well, let me back up and say, why on earth did I have an MRI appointment? Well, back over a year ago, actually, I mentioned to my dentist just in my annual checkup, I kind of have jaw pain sometimes. And it's, on a pain scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 1 or a 2. It just shows up sometimes. And, he felt my jaw and, yeah, I don't know what it is. So then the pain got a little worse. It just got more frequent and maybe up to a level 3 in pain. So last fall, the dentist decided wisely, I think, that it was probably just that I was grinding my teeth at night. So we went through several months of trying this and trying that. For the whole month of March, for example, I wore a customized anti-teeth grinding gizmo. And we thought that would solve it. The dentist and I both did. But at the end of March, I called and said, okay, I've been wearing it for a month. I still got the jaw pain, and actually it's gotten worse. I'm having to alternate between ibuprofen and acetaminophen. So he said at that point, okay, it's out of my hands. I don't know what it is. I'm going to refer you to the oral surgeon. So I had a great meeting with the oral surgeon sometime in April. And he was a very brief talk with the actual doctor. And he just put my full mouth x-ray that the dentist had sent him on his, screen where they put x-rays. And he said, like, I'm looking at your mouth. There is nothing wrong with your mouth. You got cavities, but they're all filled. So I'm going to refer you to get an MRI of your jaw because I don't know what's going on. So 20% chance you're just going to have occasional jaw pain the rest of your life. It does happen to some people. 80% chance it's something else, and I have no idea what it is. So I'm going to schedule, you just call and schedule the MRI. I'm going to refer you down there. Because it was at the hospital and the MRI group was downstairs. So I did that. I called, and here it is mid-April or end of April. And of course, the first appointment they have is early June. No problem, I think, because June 4th is great because my youngest is at camp, and so I get the 8:30 appointment slot for June 4th. So I show up for my MRI of my lower left jaw, and thankfully, I guess in hindsight, they were running late, of course, and I had only brought one book to read, my favorite book, the Bible, and so I just read through some Psalms and was just waiting for my turn to get in the tube. I finally got in the tube. I think it was around 9:45. And so I'm laying there and, they don't put a clock in the room. But at some point I think, gosh, this is taking a long time. Wow, I wonder what's going on. And then I think, no, Allison, they don't have a clock in the room. You don't even know how long you've been here. So I'm just trying to stay still, because that's what you got to do in an MRI tube. And they finally, get me out, and I've still got my hospital gowns on. So they take me, one of the MRI technicians takes me to the place where my clothes and cell phone and everything is stored and shows me where that is. And then he walks away, and I'm trying to find my phone to call my daughter because I still don't know what time it is, but I'm pretty sure I'm late. But before I even found my phone to call my daughter and say, sorry, I'm late for lunch, I turned around and there was this man I've never met before standing there next to me. He said, hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I said, oh, well, hello. And he said, listen, I need to tell you that you have a brain tumor and you need to be operated on soon. Maybe as soon as today. We got some things to figure out, but right now we want you to be admitted immediately into the emergency room. And that was, whoa, okay, whoa, stop, please just pause. Found my phone, called my daughter, and she's like, hey, yeah, Mom, I wondered where you were. Yeah, I'm sorry. it's a little bit more complicated than me being like, let me just put you on speakerphone. So I, push the button, and I said, Dr. So-and-so, could you please just repeat those two sentences you just said so my daughter can hear and keep going. So he did. He repeated those two sentences. He kept going just for 3 or 4 more sentences because he was clearly in a hurry. And then my sweet daughter, of course, says, okay, what am I supposed to do now? And I said, I don't know. I mean, I called you first because we had a lunch date, but you need to call your dad and your brothers. And I mean, y'all are going to have to figure it out because this nurse has just showed up with a wheelchair to wheel me to the emergency room. So I'm in shock too. I don't have any idea what's going on. Hung up on my sweet daughter. They wheeled me to the emergency room, which they had already prepared for me or whatever. Then soon after getting to the emergency room, I called my friend that I had a friend date with that afternoon and said, hey, I'm not gonna be able to come this afternoon because apparently I have a brain tumor. And she said, what? And I said, I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I have no idea what's going on. So please don't, broadcast this to the world. In a few hours, I hope we know what's going on, but you can call a couple of friends if you like. I'm as shocked as you. Sorry, we can't get together this afternoon. Then my husband showed up with Sylvia, who had been able to get the afternoon off, I guess, from Eastman. She had come up to the emergency room and several of her brothers. And so I think most of them were there anyway by the time the ER doctor walked in, and he said, have you had any seizures? And I said, no. And then by that time, as I said, my family's in the room. No. Like, God, I can't believe that. I mean, wow, I can't believe that. And gosh, what's okay. And then he kind of like, that's about all maybe he said more. This is just my perspective. He kind of left soon after. Okay, thankfully, a short time later, another doctor came in. I think it was just a neurosurgeon on call. And I think their office is just upstairs at the hospital. He had come down and he's talking about that we need to go to Vanderbilt for this surgery, and we need to get the surgery as soon as possible. And we're just all, what are you talking about? So then the wise doctor that I think he was a neurosurgeon. I don't know. Anyway, he said, have y'all even seen the pictures? And we said, no. So he didn't run, but he went down the hall in the emergency room and he got one of those rolling big television screens and he pulled it into our ER room and showed us the picture of my brain with this, it wasn't perfectly spherical, but it was this big. And it was kind of right behind, it was right here, sort of. And of course, Tim and me and Sylvia and the boys, oh, that's me. And he said, yeah, that's you. So, so anyway, So Tim and some of the older kids went out in the hallway to talk, and I think wisely decided to just take me home with my Keppra prescription, which prevents seizures, and just kind of sleep on things. Well, that was a great decision because by midday Wednesday, just the very next day, June 5th, we were informed that Vanderbilt didn't want me. I mean, they wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. Okay, I'm exaggerating. That's not what Vanderbilt said. But what Vanderbilt said, according to my understanding, is they said, this is a really complicated surgery. We actually don't want to take it. We would like for you to take this patient to Dr. Ash Thagary, who's at UVA. Well, that's way more convenient for us because Tim's entire family lives in Lynchburg, Virginia, an hour south of UVA. So good news to us. So that was Wednesday that we heard that Vanderbilt declined the opportunity to do surgery on me, but Dr. Ash Thagary hopefully would take my case. So by Thursday, we knew that Dr. Ash Thagary had accepted the invitation to operate on me, and we drove to Lynchburg to Tim's dad's house. And Tim's mom got to take care of our cat for almost a month. She's a wonderful cat caregiver. So Tim and I and Sylvia drove up Thursday, and true to his word about, he wanted me as a patient. Dr. Ash Thagary had originally squeezed us into a 10:30 a.m. slot, or I'm sorry, the opposite. We had originally had an afternoon slot with Dr. Ash Thagary. Some things changed on his schedule and he gave us a 9 a.m. slot. Okay, so here we are. Tuesday, I don't think anything's wrong. I'm just having a normal day. And then I find out I have a life-threatening brain tumor. And by Friday morning, I'm in the office of Dr. Ash Thagary, which is one of the best neurosurgeons in the East, at least. I don't know how wide, but he's well known among neurosurgeons. He spent an hour with us. Dr. Ash Thagary spent an hour with Sylvia, Tim, and me. Wow. And he explained so many things then. And so then he said to me, you really needed surgery last week or last month or last year. But given that you've had so few symptoms, I'm going to ask, I think it's best that we wait one more week, because if we can get a couple of scans and tests done early in the week, then it's going to better prepare us to do surgery on you. We're going to be able to do a better surgery, and that's what we all want, right? So, and then he sweetly said, "Look, if something happens and you need surgery tomorrow on Saturday, I'm going to come in and do it. But I don't want to do surgery on the weekend because you got the B team on the weekend. I want the A team, and I want Monday morning, and your surgery will last all day. So I've already got one Monday morning surgery moved. I just need to get some afternoon things moved. I got to take a hammer and break a few more windows. We're going to get this done." What a guy! What a guy! So, so he was, of course, and he also explained a lot about all the MRI pictures, which thankfully, they had chosen to not do the MRI just of my left jaw, but they had done my whole head. Yeah. So, and that was because, well, I'll talk more about the because of that here at the end of the video, but, so then we, again, we were staying at Tim's dad's house and driving up for the few that he wanted a CT scan, and he wanted me to have an appointment with a neuro-ophthalmologist. Who knew there was such a thing, but there are ophthalmologists, eye doctors, who specialize in brain patients. So since the tumor was pretty much touching the back of my left eye, that's why he wanted me to have this intense appointment with the neuro-ophthalmologist. And then his team studied stuff at the end of the week. And I did have surgery, 10, 12 hours. I don't remember how long the surgery was, but I got anesthetized, don't remember any of it, but that was Monday the 17th. So now let me tell you two important parts of the story that kind of I neglected to tell. First of all, I want to tell you a little bit more about Tuesday afternoon. Sylvia, of course, informed her dad and all her brothers of what was going on. And my son Peter was, the second-born son Peter, was one of the ones not in the ER room with us. And why? It was because he was phone calling and emailing to make sure all of his grandparents and his aunts and uncles heard right away. We don't exactly know what's going on, but Allison has a brain tumor. Wow, what a wise thing to do. Then he did another really wise thing. He drove to Camp Bays Mountain and picked up his little brother T-Rex, which thankfully I had remembered to list my adult kids as other people who can, on the sign-off form, who can pick up your kids. Or I forgot to put on the form and Peter just explained the situation. I don't know what, but anyway, Peter was able to pick up T-Rex, bring him home. And Tuesday night, like hours after I first found out I had a brain tumor, I'm still trying to digest, what does this mean? My entire local family was there at my house for dinner. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. And Peter was wise to realize that rumors spread quickly, and let's do everything we can to prevent T-Rex from hearing through some staff member at Camp Bays Mountain, "Hey, I heard your mom had a brain tumor." Anyway, so then, T-Rex was fine with the news. He's 12 years old, and he just understood that we're going to figure this out, and I don't look sick, and so I don't think he was scared. But then either Sylvia or Peter took him back to camp that evening. He had his bathing suit on. He was ready to go. So that was just a wonderful gift that Peter, and let me tell you, Sylvia, Peter, Nick, and Tom, even Sam, Rob, all my kids had done outstanding and just stepping up to the plate and doing great things to serve our family. It's amazing. All of them. So the final story I wanted to tell you is that when I was telling a version of this story to one of the assistants on the team at UVA, maybe she was a CNA, or I don't know what her role was, but I know she wasn't a physician because it's not something physicians should do. But she was interviewing me on what got you here, because her job was to type into my medical chart, how did we get here? So I tell her this whole story, and she says, "Wow, that's quite a story." She said, "So it was the tech who saved your life." I said, What are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, the MRI room, you've got the room with the tube that's all closed off. And then the room right next door is just, 2 or 3 technicians that are just doing the computer work to make sure the machine's working properly." I said, "Yeah, I know about that. I just had an MRI." She said, "So one, or maybe more than maybe the whole team, but one of them at least noticed there was something a little unusual right above your left jaw. But he was only ordered to do the MRI of your left jaw. So he could have just kept doing his job. But instead, that tech called for help. I don't know, probably called the doctor or something. And thankfully, when the doctor or whoever it was who could give authority to change the order for the MRI, that guy said, 'Oh yeah, let's do this woman's whole head.' Praise God. Praise God for that tech. I have a friend who works at the hospital, and I've already been in communication with her, and she is going to help me figure out what was the team of those 3 or 4 people running the MRI machine that morning, because I want to figure out who they are and when they're on duty again. And sometime in September, I want to just bring them pizza for lunch just to personally thank them and tell them that brief story about how the UVA person said they were the ones who saved my life. Because again, it was just shocking to even the people, when I got there, I had more than one person say, "I can't believe you're alive now." I mean, talk about neuroplasticity. That's why we think it was a slow growing tumor, because this is a huge thing in your brain. And it's amazing that you haven't had a seizure and that you're still alive before surgery. So thankfully, I had such a great team to do the surgery. And as you can see, I'm recovering very well. All right, thanks. That's the story.